Publicly, at least, President Bush remains committed to the air war.
The air campaign has been very, very effective, and it will continue for a while.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Tonight, America at war.
Good evening. Will there be a ground war, and if so, when? As we approach the end of week 4 of Operation Desert Storm, that remains the question. And it was on the president's desk during a high-level war council meeting today. NBC's John Cochran is at the White House tonight. John, what's the latest there?
Tom, the whole subject of the ground war has become so politically and emotionally charged that in public, at least today, the president could not even bring himself to use the actual words ground war. But the president knew that is what everyone wanted him to talk about. And after meeting with his war council, Bush found a way to say no ground war. Not yet, anyway.
The air campaign has been very, very effective, and it will continue for a while. We're not talking about dates for further adding to the air campaign, put it that way.
Defense Secretary Dick Cheney and Joint Chiefs Chairman Colin Powell returned from Saudi Arabia without recommending an immediate ground campaign.
We are going to take whatever time is necessary to sort out when a next stage might begin. And I will not be discussing it any further than that. And I can guarantee you that there should be no further discussion of that for a lot of reasons, including the safety of our own troops.
The safety of American troops is the reason given by Republicans like Senator Bob Dole for urging Bush to delay a ground war. And today, Democrat David Boren, chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, wrote to the president, "You will come under increasing pressure from leaders in the region for reasons of their own domestic politics to move prematurely to a ground war." Senate sources say Boren was referring to leaders from Egypt, Kuwait, and especially from Saudi Arabia. But Bush emphasized he will listen to his military advisors.
General Schwarzkopf and others. And then if they come to me and say there needs to be another phase, then I will then make that decision.
For now, the president thinks it makes good military sense to pull back from a ground war. It also makes good political sense here at home. Tom?
Thank you, John Cochran. That's the view from the political heights. Now let's go to the Pentagon and get the military view from NBC's Fred Francis. Fred?
Tom, there are two very basic military reasons to delay the ground war a few more weeks. Air bombardment is causing major cracks in Iraqi troop morale, and destruction of Iraqi weapons continues. Sources say that most of Iraq's tanks and artillery pieces are dug deep into the sand, but U.S. attack pilots still say it is a target-rich battlefield because they can still be seen. Today, combat pilots flew 750 separate attacks just on Iraq's now suffering army in the Kuwaiti theater. NBC News has been told that almost 1,000 Iraqi tanks have now been destroyed. That's almost a quarter of the tanks facing Allied forces. But it is a slow process.
The way they have many of their tanks and artillery pieces and armored vehicles in place is one bomb per vehicle because they have them revetted. In some cases, they have them dug in. The more that kind of force can be attrited by air before we send in foot soldiers and tankers and artillerymen, the fewer casualties we're going to take.
The tank and artillery destruction is only part of the decision to wait. A growing number of Iraqi prisoners, including senior officers, are giving Allied forces important intelligence.
Those soldiers are demonstrating a towering frustration level because they got to come through their own minefields to get there. The hardest thing about giving yourself up to the Saudi Arabians is getting to Saudi Arabia because of the minefields, because of the barbed wire, because of the trenches filled with oil, because of the alleged squads that are moving around in the rear area looking for people who desert.
More than 1,000 prisoners now in Saudi Arabia talk of great hardship and cracking morale in the trenches. From those prisoners and other intelligence sources, the Allies estimate that another 4,000 Iraqi soldiers have risked those execution squads to desert north toward Iraq. Although the decision is to delay a ground offensive, one senior Pentagon official said that could change with one vital piece of intelligence that could give U.S. soldiers the edge if they went on the attack. Tom?
Thank you, Fred. And as the air war roared along today, almost 3,000 sorties today alone, the objectives are clear. in the words of General Powell, cut off and kill the Iraqi army. NBC's Arthur Kent is in Saudi Arabia tonight. He tells us how this strategy is proceeding. Arthur?
Tom, though General Schwarzkopf and his war planners estimate that some Iraqi divisions have lost 40% of their strength, the Allies want to improve their chances on the ground by putting still more pressure on Iraqi supply lines leading into Kuwait.
Allied aircraft like these French Jaguars are trying to stay ahead of resourceful Iraqi ground units that are in some places repairing bridges and roads almost as fast as the warplanes can destroy them.
We continue to attack them, and we do feel that we have significantly cut down the flow of military goods and services and equipment down into the Basra area for further transfer into the southern KTO.
But until that flow is cut completely, say sources here, the air campaign will continue with raids on ammunition dumps and fuel depots like this one.
So that's the tank going up. And as he comes back, you see the secondary explosions there.
At forward air bases in Saudi Arabia, ground crews are being pressed to shorten turnaround time in rearming and fueling aircraft and sending them back on the attack.
The airplane comes in, he'll go and get some gas, come back and be loaded up with bombs, and then he's out of here.
On the border with Kuwait, mainly quiet today. Time for a curious public relations exercise. A group of Afghan Mujahideen were transported to the front, apparently without arms, where U.S. Marines posed in a show of unity.
Since the Afghans have no experience in frontal warfare, no skills relevant to the breaching of Iraqi defenses, the appearance of the Mujahideen here today is solely symbolic and out of step with the image of a finely tuned alliance projected here so far.